What's going on in our country? Election is on our way, and today I'm joining two of candidates from People's Party of Canada, Mr. Amit Gupta, PPC candidate for Mississauga East Cokesville, and Nathan Quinlan, PPC candidate Mississauga Malton. Welcome both of you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate you.
So, Amit, you are sitting just next to me.
Gee.
And what are your hopes as a candidate for PPC party?
So as a candidate for PPC, my hope, my wish, and my vision is to win with PPC. So PPC gets some seats in the parliament so we can stand up for Canadians, because I think PPC is the only party that truly believes in Canada and Canadian interests.
Nathan, you are candidate for PPC for Mississauga Malton riding.
Yes.
And at the moment, we are sitting in a studio, which is situated in Malton as well. So how do you see your constituency, and how do you see the environment for upcoming election?
Very positive. So this morning I handed in my paperwork to be the certified candidate, which means I will be officially on the ballot once the certification process finishes. To get here, it was a little over 800 doors that got knocked on. Thankfully, it didn't get to 1,000, but it was talking to people and getting a really good idea of who the people are around here. And to see, it's going to be interesting. And I think that we'll be able to do much better than people might think we will.
So, Amit, as Nathan just said, that we need to do better, and PPC
Yes.
will be in good shape.
Right.
So there's so much stereotype against PPC.
Right.
And as a person of immigrant background, how would you take PPC, taking it forward to next level?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you for that. So let me just say the stereotypes. Like, what is a stereotype? I think stereotypes are generally inserted into the conversation to distract people from reality. Okay. And I think that's what has happened with PPC, with the Project Cactus, through the PR firm the conservative government had hired. Now, as an immigrant, right, there is rhetoric out there that, PPC is not for immigrants. But I'm sitting here as a PPC candidate. I think I'm the prime example that showcases, and many other candidates in the PPC that are running for PPC this year, that shows that PPC is welcoming to all immigrants who are additive to our society. I think the key word is we want immigrants who are going to adopt Canadian values, integrate into our society, and be a positive impact into our society. I think that's what we stand for. We don't want people who are unvetted, who are gonna bring havoc into our system, participate in crime, or be leeching off our taxpayers, right? That's what we don't want. And I think that's a vested interest, not just for people who have been living here for hundreds of years. Even as an immigrant who pays taxes, I want my taxes to be used well. And I think that should say everything for itself.
We already have three major parties: Liberal Party, Conservative Party, NDP. And do you think we Canadians need one more party, as PPC is a new party?
Absolutely. Because the key word there is new party. If you take a look at the history of the parties, and you take a look at how they are, and you take a look at, say, their financial donations, you take a look at the businesses that support them, the United Steelworkers Union supporting the NDP, whereas you talk to someone who has worked in the automobile industry, they do not. They abhor what has happened. They've destroyed, in their words to me, the NDP has destroyed itself because they no longer represent the, union members. And in this case, I kind of look at it as we have central bank leaders coming in to run a party. How that's not even globalist. That is the top person in capitalism is now being actively supported by people who resist and protest against capitalism. How do they, get these two together? I don't know. It's magic. And we take a look at, who's backing the Conservatives? A lot of corporate interests are kind of helping them out. And especially when you take a look at who the individuals are that are supporting the Conservatives. And then same with the NDP. I know for us in the People's Party, try finding businesses that support us, few and far between. And it's the case where most of these businesses that, they'll talk positively about us, like Tag TV, are very, very small organizations.
If I could add,
yes,
my perspective is, yes, we need a new party. Why? Why do we need something new in any ecosystem? It's because there is a gap that is not being addressed. Right now, the parties are collectively working against the interest of Canadians. And we don't expect them to change the course because it's working for them. If they keep getting elected by subduing our interest, there is no motivation for them to change. So there has to be somebody new who has to stand up and call for a change. And that's why we need a new party that's just looking out for regular people like you and me.
But also, Nathan, this is not a very new party. It was established in 2018, and it has experience. This party has gone through 3 elections.
Yeah.
And so how do you see PPC bringing true conservative values in Canadian politics, since Maxime Bernier and most candidates blame conservatives for leaving core conservative values. So how could PPC bring those values back in our political arena, as well as how could PPC convince Canadians, as at least conservative voters?
To me, the key point is vote your values. When I was door knocking, when it was the polite no thank you, I would tell and remind people, vote your values. Look at all the platforms. Read them. Read them. Stop listening to what the media is saying and actually sit down and read them. Because what is in there is sometimes different than what they talk about for the major parties. In the case of conservatives, they're not conservatives. They're conservatives in name only, not in policy. They are as far away from that in policy as what the Chrétien Liberal Party used to be. I was a Chrétien Liberal voter, and it is not the same thing. And to me, at least, what our message is remember what conservatism used to mean and what it means right now. It means family values. It means supporting small businesses, something that is always talked about, but never done. And if we take a look at some of the things that have been talked about and voted upon, most importantly, in the past by the Conservatives, people would be surprised to find out the voting record of Conservative MPs, the Conservative Party. Take a look. It's something that you have to educate yourself on.
So, Amit, as Nathan mentioned about irrelevancy of some of the parties, for instance, NDP's irrelevancy, even conservative parties' irrelevancy,
right,
according to PPC
right,
guys. So when we talk about conservatism, we think of President Donald Trump these days. We think he's bringing sort of agenda. But the one thing we Canadians didn't like when he emphasized too much of being a 51st state.
Right.
But the People's Party of Canada's leader, Maxime Bernier, has a different approach in terms of dealing Donald Trump. He doesn't want to antagonize him.
Right.
He he wants Maxime Bernier wants Canadians to understand the current geopolitical scenario and economic scenario. So, do you think all candidates such as yourself understand Maxime Bernier's approach?
I can say for myself, yes. Okay, so let's get this straight. So what Trump is doing, he's doing it for USA, right? He might have different ideologies, different visions. But we want to, we're a sovereign country. We want to stay as a sovereign country. Canada is Canada. And I am not looking forward to becoming a 51st state. Now, that being said, I think Maxime's position on using diplomacy and a conversation with Donald Trump to figure all this stuff out comes from his background. He's not a career politician, right? He has spent 20 odd years in law and finance firms before becoming a politician. He has experience being a minister of foreign affairs. He has led diplomacy, during war times, during the era of the great recession that was happening in our country. And I think he's leveraging his experience as a human being and saying, hey, if I need to talk to a human being, we need to use diplomacy and come to the table and talk about, hey, what do you want? What do I need? And how we can make that happen. It's as simple as that. Now, I think Canadians are, this is my interpretation of what's happening. We are being scared into a narrative by the Liberal Party and the media for their own vested interests. Because when people are scared, like in war times, like in recessions, depressions, or this new threat that have been put up upon us, they tend to go to a safe place. The safe place for Canadian citizens right now seems like, I guess, Mark Carney, which I don't understand how that can happen. They're using that narrative to drive the votes to them. They're scaring people into them. I talked to like Nathan, I've knocked in many doors, and a lot of older citizens, they are scared about, hey, what is tariff going to do to my paycheck or my income that's coming into the country, while they don't understand the real issue. Now, simple thing is, right, Mr. Carney got on during the Liberal leadership, he said, Canada's problems are not made by the US. We have been in problem for more than 5 years. That's what he said during the leadership debate. Then he got anointed and he went to Europe. And then he gave a press conference saying, Canada's economy is stronger than the US. Then 2 days later, he came to Canada and said, Canada's economy is under threat because of Donald Trump. Like, this guy flip-flopped 3 positions in 10 days. Like, I don't know what else I can say about that, but the reality is somewhere else. They're distracting us. So for me, Maxime Bernier's approach to diplomacy is the right thing. Human to human being, we need to have a conversation. Let's sit down and figure it out.
Yeah. So Nathan and Amit, you both are running for very multicultural writings.
Right.
And I also come from South Asia, and I came to Canada to cherish Canadian values. I didn't come to Canada to celebrate Pakistani values because I didn't like those values. That's why I didn't live there. I left the country forever. So I came. So PPC talks about the failure of multiculturalism. And in my humble opinion, multiculturalism is not one-way traffic that you eat my samosa and I would not eat your burger. It's a two-way traffic. Right. So would you be, I'll ask you first, Nathan, would you be able to convince multicultural communities, quote unquote, I would say multicultural communities, in your writing, that all folks in this writing have to assimilate with Canadian system? Do you think you can convince the voters?
I think so. Primarily, and the degree of assimilation is interesting, because if you take a look, or to me, looking at it, is that there's a lot of fear. If you're going to be, let's say, government inducing fear into the population, into people, you're not going to have the courage or encouragement to get out and to integrate, to meet other cultures, because you're going to be afraid. You're going to be afraid of Islamophobia. You're going to be concerned and afraid of other things similar to that. And how is a group going to ever integrate or ever become truly an integrated multicultural society if everyone's afraid of everybody else? And the simple truth is, going through and talking to people, you hear the same pain points across cultures, across dialects, across everything. And I know in this here, the people that are the most interested in democracy, that quite literally, will tell me some of their issues, and it's in the People's Party's platform across the board. A lot of people are concerned with mass migration. They want qualified people. They want to have this ethos of, if I work hard, I can make a living, I can support my children. And when you hear that again and again from people from all over the world, that is a core value. That is something that is good. And that is, to me, multiculturalism, not what gets branded and packaged by the liberals or the conservatives. What they have there is meant to keep people separated.
Yes. So, Amit, you were born in India, which happened to be multicultural society for centuries.
Right.
You are living in Canada almost 20 years now. You studied in the US. US is a melting pot when it comes to multiculturalism. And I could never understand the model of multiculturalism in Canada, honestly, personally, because I feel it's not multiculturalism over here. It's kind of a segregation in the name of multiculturalism. So you're also running for a very quote unquote diverse or multicultural society, or community. And when I talk about diversity, people talk about diversity of faces. I talk about diversity of ideas.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, diversity is not just that small thing, that diversity of faces. Where are diversity of ideas? I mean, our mainstream legacy media are not accepting diversity of ideas. They are happy to accommodate diversity of faces, but not diversity of ideas. So this complex sort of a question, or my input in this conversation, how do you take it to next level?
So first of all, I am running for Mississauga East Cookswell for People's Party of Canada, not as an icon of multiculturalism, but I'm hoping people would listen to me and vote for me for the merit of what I would bring to the table. Okay, first thing. Now, you're right, like US is more of a melting pot. And I think there is a slight way that they do immigration better than Canada, where they enforce immigration laws which basically, we put country caps on number of immigrants that can come from a certain country. That forces an assimilation of diverse societies and that diverse backgrounds. And I actually like what you said, because that's what I always tell to people is diversity is not diversity of color, not diversity of religion. It's diversity of thoughts and ideas. That's what takes a society forward. So I think we, from my perspective, first calling spade a spade, our multiculturalism effort or whatever we were trying to do has failed, because now we have segregated societies where people are very comfortable and they don't have to learn the language, learn the values, learn the ways of living of a Canadian society. And I always tell them, looking back, why did I go to US and why did I come to Canada? Because I liked something that was different than what I had. And I think that is what, I tried to integrate to. Now, your question around how do you assimilate people, or how do you take people to take Canadian values? I think we, and I hope I become an MP, we need to put forward some processes and protocols that educate immigrants who are coming into this country on what does it mean to be in Canada, what are the Canadian values, what are our ethos, what are the rules of the society here, so they can understand. I think today you drop an immigrant into this country, the first thing they will do is they will call their friend or relative, and they're gonna go to them and probably just learn from what they learn, right? And if they haven't had a chance to really adapt into the Canadian society, the Canadian way of life, it will never change. So I think we just need to reform the process at the start. When somebody new comes in, we need to put in effort, and which I think a lot of European countries are doing, is educating them, helping them understand, hey, how do you live life? How do you, what does society expect here? You need to hold doors. You need to say thank yous. You need somebody who wants to come into your lane. You let them come into your lane. You be polite. You be respectful, and that's what, if you don't tell somebody, I don't think you can expect them to learn. So now the end, how do we get there? I think it's going to be a long effort, but I think what we can fix right away is the new people that are coming in. First, we need to figure out to, in my perspective, have a country cap. I think we should have that. That would fix some of these segregation issues that are happening, create a process to educate them, and then through our community services, start working with our residents on helping them get educated and bringing them into the Canadian way of life, right? Like today, people don't go vote, right? That's one of the other issues in Canadian society that people, I'm amazed that people don't care about. Even back in India, people actually care about voting because they think it's their right, and it's their voice needs to be heard. So I think it's more education that needs to be done, but we have to start at the top where the funnel is coming in. We fix at that, and whatever is at the bottom, in our vessel already, that will be a slow change, but effort has to be made. I hope that answers your question.
No, yes, absolutely. Nathan, politics is not all about winning or losing.
Right.
It's about sticking to the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It's a battlefield. And PPC is a new party.
Mm-hmm.
I wish both of you to get elected. But there are all, consequences
Mm-hmm.
of election. One has to win, others have to lose.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about, as I said in the beginning, it's not about just winning or losing. It's about sticking to the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that for this new party,
Mm-hmm.
guys, yourself, Amit, and other candidates, they need to invest more after this election? If you guys get elected, wonderful, you have to invest more. If you, in case, don't get to where you want to get to,
Mm-hmm.
you have to build the party. Do you think that you sort of pledge to your party in any case helping building the party in future?
Yes. So it's funny. As part of the election process right now, it was get signed, get the signatures, get that mode done. Phase 1's complete. Phase 2, get out there and get campaigning hard. If elected, again, it's two different situations. If you're elected, well, then you're beholden to all of the people who voted for you in your riding, without exception, which means that's less time for the party and more time specifically addressing the things and complaints that these people have, because they're paying your salary. You have to listen to them. They're your boss. Maxime would be boss number 2.
Yeah.
And then if not elected, then yes, after that, in a case of not being elected, it is building the party. That means growing the membership and still growing the awareness. One of the little nuggets in Elections Canada laws and regulations is the fact that outside of the election period, door knocking is still permitted. I can still go out there and quote unquote spread the gospel or spread the good word of the People's Party of Canada to people. I just have to knock on their door. Something that I've been doing for the past couple days. And once you've done 800 doors, your fear of talking to people, that's gone. And I would totally recommend that as a way of getting over any kind of anxiety about groups of people and situations like that. But then, yes, we have to focus on helping out the people in the riding. There are things that can be done, and then certainly growing the membership. Because if the members don't feel appreciated, they're not going to be spreading the word actively. And regardless of how the election turns out, morale. And do I have plans for something like that? And after that, absolutely. But that's a problem and concern for April 29th.
Right. Absolutely. I understand it. How would you take this thing at your level?
Yeah, I think the simple answer is yes, absolutely. You need to keep investing time and effort to build a party, to make sure you are serving the principles that you stood for, right? The principles that I'm standing for are not the principles for today. It's the principles that we want for Canada, for every Canadian, forever, right? And that's what I'm standing for. So the way I see this is, I want to do good in this elections. And, if I win, one of the key tenets of the way I do any work in my life is transparency. I didn't bring that, but I have actually written bills. My MP hasn't written bills. I have written private member bills that I want to bring to the table that will open up the data to our citizens, to bring transparency at all levels of government, and at least at the federal level, if I'm participating at the federal level. And through that effort, I think citizens would be more informed about, what are you really doing in the House of Commons? Are you meeting the objectives that I set out for you when I voted for you, or you promised me? And challenge me, right? And ask me to step down if I'm not serving their interest that they elected me for. Now, on the flip side, if we don't win, I'm absolutely committed to working in my riding to keep raising the awareness for PPC, what it stands for, what it means for Canadians, so that they can understand, right? Our issue right now is not that we don't have a great platform, we don't have great candidates like Nathan and others. Our issue is lack of visibility and people not knowing about us. And I think that's the track that we need to work on to get awareness out there and truly build a grassroots movement that can exponentially grow through momentum of connecting with people. So the answer is yes, I'm committed. I'm not committed for next 28 days. I'm committed to doing something in my local community at all levels, the municipal, the provincial, and the federal. I'm trying to get engaged in all the conversations. That's what my commitment is to this.
Okay, coming precisely to your writing, Nathan, what are your priorities if you get elected for people, for constituents, for your writing?
Specifically, if elected, right? Okay, if elected, one of the top issues would be crime. That is something that an elected MP, if I'm the only People's Party person that gets elected in this campaign, as an elected MP, there's still something you can do about crime. You can't tackle the inflation problem, but certainly crime is something that can be done. I have some ideas on that. We would see. But in the second big issue would be constantly badgering the government to deal with housing inflation and to deal with grocery inflation and all the price inflation. That is a big issue. It's eating in people's pockets. And why in the world is the government ignoring it continuously and making it even worse? In the case of Trump tariffs, compensation, printing money to give to people who may or may not lose their job or whatever. Again, guess what? Under a Mark Carney plan of shelling out billions of dollars to compensate businesses and whatever else, it's just going to be the COVID inflation all over again. It's just printing money. And that's going to hurt all of us severely. So it's going to be, if elected, keep reminding people, if daily, if required, that, hey, this is what's going to happen. This happened before, and this is what's going to happen again.
Right. So, Nathan, in your case, Amit, in your case, what would be your priorities?
So I am so similar to Nathan. I think the first is crime. Just yesterday, I talked to a few people who mentioned their fear of going on the streets with some valuables in their hands and thinking somebody's going to take it away, right?
Really, the situation is that
Yeah,
bad?
like I talked to a gentleman who wears, a gold bracelet, and he's like, I don't want to go out because I think somebody's going to cut my hand and take it away. Now, and this is happening at different levels. Like there are people who are afraid of their cars getting stolen or their houses getting broken into. My relatives live in my area, and one of them is like always scared about something happening on the street because something happened down the street. So I think the crime. So I have like Nathan, I think a single MP can do a lot. One of the things, and I'm hoping to put it on my website in 2 days, voteamit.ca, is to put a private member bill. I've already written the bill, so I don't need to do the homework. I've all done the homework in the last 2 months, is to bring a bill forward to amend the Canadian Criminal Code and the Firearms Act of Canada to bring Castle Doctrine protections for Canadian citizens in Canada. What that means is simply stand your ground. You should be able to defend yourself by any means necessary. Your home, your business, your vehicle, wherever you are, you should be able to protect yourself. And when you do that, you should not be punished for standing your ground. So bringing that, like if I get elected, if I'm selected, that I will bring that like in the first 45 days because I've written it. The second is healthcare. I want to institute a plan for timely, guaranteed access to healthcare. Now people will say, hey, what does that mean? Because healthcare is a provincial responsibility, but provinces get transfers of funds from federal government to do certain things. We can create a mechanism, and I've written a bill for that. I can share that on my website to implement a system for guaranteeing timely access to healthcare to Canadian citizens. And what that would do is we would measure provinces on each of the provinces who is providing the best care to its citizen in a timely fashion. And it will be a scorecard. The provinces that do better, they get more funding. The provinces who do less, they get less funding. Plus, I want to bring in provisions where if you are waiting for a procedure for a certain length of time and it needs to be decided, you can go to another province or a selected list of countries to get that healthcare and bill it back to your province. So you don't have to keep waiting for whatever you need to do. The third is immigration. I think we need to control that. Immigration needs to be thoughtful so that we can integrate people into our society, give them a better life. I have been, and this is tied to many things. And one of the key things that I care about is youth unemployment. Our youth unemployment is the highest it has ever been in the last 40 years. Kids cannot get jobs. They're competing for those jobs with temporary residents, who we have a lot right now in the country. We need to make sure by controlling immigration, we will be able to provide opportunities to our youngsters that they need to step into the professional life. That's very important. So by only controlling immigration and focusing on bringing immigrants where we actually have severe need will help solve that issue. Then I think the last one that I really, really care about is financial accountability and transparency. I want to figure out a way. I'm still thinking about this is what could we do to open up financial transparency at the federal level and in all the government levels. If you give $100 million, $1 billion, $10 billion contract to a certain company, we should have metrics for them to achieve or earn that money and it should be open to the public to see. And if they don't do that, we should be able to penalize them, not keep giving them extra money, and it should be open for everybody to see. And if you as a minister decided to make that decision, you should be held accountable, or I should be held accountable on making that good choice or bad choice. I think that's very important. I think if we do some of these things, I think crime, absolutely, I want to bring that bill right away. Timely access to healthcare, absolutely right away. Immigration is our party's main priority, and then financial accountability. I will work on this right away, and it should make a significant impact to our citizens. I want to add one other thing. Some people take conservatives' values as a threat to their social programs. I don't think that's what it is, right? I think what conservatives value really means is being very thoughtful about how you manage the taxpayer dollars that people work hard for. Right now, there are many industries like healthcare and others where half of the money is spent on bureaucracy. It's not serving citizens, right? We could be using that money, if we reduce the government size, we could be reducing the money to make other programs better. We can put more money into healthcare rather than having ministries that just do nothing, and provide more, bring more doctors, give more money to doctors so that they can stay here. They want to stay here. So I want to be very clear. This is not about cutting programs. This is about making sure our money is being used wisely and most effectively for the programs that people need and care for.
Wrapping up today's conversation, Nathan, I would like to ask you, how would you like to conclude our today's discussion, as well as your emphasis in terms of your struggle in politics?
Well, the struggle in politics has just started. First, it was getting to this stage, and then within the next 24 hours or so, we'll be starting the next phase. And then that struggle will be out there, getting the message out and pushing it out. And just to add on to the other comment, which was for cutting of benefits and things like that, it's not a PPC thing to be cutting benefits. I mean, the recognition of, for example, if you're down on your luck and you are in need of social assistance, this is fine. I mean, I grew up in a single mother household on social assistance. The short-sighted people and parties, like perhaps the conservatives, are going to be saying, oh, they need to cut benefits, whatever. The simple reality is no, because families and situations where you've got a single mother household, they have children. Single mother household. Guess what? Those children will get older. Those children will graduate. Those children will become taxpayers. And then frequently that mother will start working after the children have all gotten to a certain age. Then you have to take a look. Okay, let's say here, you have to think about, okay, a 10-year term of social assistance, the mother might get another 20 years of work, and then the children will all be working in taxpayers for the next 40 years. That investment of 10 years comes along with all those additional tax dollars after the fact. So a long-term perspective is that cutting social benefits is not a blanket thing. There are certain social benefits that need to be there, keeps them off the street, makes sure that they're not going to be, having to do criminal acts and things like that. But there's also that long-term benefit, both to society as well as to the taxpayer base afterwards. The only time the benefits, you have to reevaluate and think about it are cases where that person is, say, alone and wants to sit in the basement playing on their Xbox or things like that. It's like there's reasons to examine.
I would say if paying more taxes actually made social programs better, we would have already been in great shape, right? We wouldn't be talking about the problems. We have been paying more taxes forever. It's been increasing and increasing. The issue is that they're being abused. Like, there is so much inefficiency in the process. And, I know the data because I've looked behind the curtain a little bit. We just need to take out the ineffective waste in our system so we can actually bring more back into the social programs. I talked to a senior citizen yesterday. He gets OAS, CPP, another job pension, and he still can't afford his house if his kids don't help him in that. So, yeah, like we need to be clear about that, like, because people will put scared other people, citizens who don't know actually what's going on, into saying, hey, our position is to cut down everything. But that's not what it is. It's cut down ineffective government. That's what we care for. They should be protecting you. They should be getting out of your way, and they should be getting out of your pocket.
Thank you, gentlemen, both of you. You talked very well, and I wish you good luck in this very difficult but needy fight for Canadians, for your constituencies, and for our values.
No, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah,
we need more people like you to bring awareness to our platform. I think this is wonderful. I'm really appreciate your gesture here.
Thank you again, and thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Amit.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thanks to everyone else.
Viewers, you just heard two candidates from Mississauga's two ridings. And this is election time in our country. And I'm pretty confident all of you will participate, and whoever lives in their ridings respectively, I'm pretty confident that after hearing their discussion, their conversation, you're going to vote for them. Thank you for watching us.